Hello everybody, it's the 8th of September 2015, it's Dan here from Essex, United Kingdom. Now it's about 18 degrees today, so we're not doing too bad with the weather. The summer appears to have come back, so that's good. So what I've been doing is setting up a very small backyard orchard. Now this part of the garden here is confined to around the length of 3 fence panels, so it's not very big at all. I'll just give you a brief tour. Then we'll go into each individual tree in a moment. So that's the first panel, that's the second panel, and that's the third panel. And what I've done is come out a little bit, so we've got some rhubarb in some containers here. This is only really here, just wanted something to put in a container, so I thought rhubarb would be good. And we come out here a little bit, and we've got another tree here. So as you can see, this whole little orchard bit is very small. So firstly we'll go into what we've got. Now what we've got here, this is, I've shown this many times, this is a Winter King, home grafted by myself last year. Becoming a nice tree now. It's on MM106, so it should be a decent sized tree one day. I'm hoping with the fact that I cut the graft low that the tree will have the top of a half standard, but only will be a very short tree. That's what I'm hoping, but we will see. So the graft is closed up nice. I'm happy with it, certainly worth putting in the ground now. So I put it in, Winter King, so we should have a nice tree there. 3 or 4 years time should get some good fruit. Of course, Winter King being otherwise known as Winston, a long keeping apple. And here, this was quite an interesting acquisition for me. Now my friend gave this to me. He purchased this, and it turned out it wasn't what he wanted. So I looked at it and I thought, what can I do with it? So initially I put it in a pot and I left it and just had a think. So what I've now done is I've turned it into an espalier. Now variety Onward, so that's a nice variety of pear. You generally don't buy those in the supermarket, so I'm quite happy with that. Nice healthy tree. It's put out a lot of green growth. I mean, just from here all the way to there this year, so I'm happy with that. Here as well, it's a nice bit of growth. And I also used some buds off this for some chip budding onto the quince tree. So, you know, it's doing well. Obviously, for an espalier, you want it to be, you know, you'd want the spurs to be coming off lower down, but that's in an ideal world. But for a tree for free, of course, I certainly cannot complain about this. And I've just tied it to this trellis to keep with an espalier, you need to keep the air circulating so the sun can get to your fruit, and also so that a disease doesn't become rampant in a closely confined environment. So that's pear tree Onward. Now this one here, this is a gala apple. Now people might ask me, why are you growing a gala apple when you can easily buy them from the supermarket? Well, which you really can, because they're a very common apple in the UK supermarkets. But this tree I purchased a few years ago for around £4, so of course I couldn't really argue with that. Now it doesn't look an amazing specimen, and to be honest it's not, but I haven't looked after it very well this year. It was in a pot and it dried out, but now I put it in the ground, it should do okay. The year before last it had about 6 apples on it, so that's not too bad really for a tree this small. And I've got to honestly say that a gala apple fresh off the tree tastes 10 times better than a supermarket variety. So I quite like this this little tree. And this one here, this isn't once again another tree that I've grafted myself. I've got a Winter King on there. You can see that it's taken well. I'm starting to take the tape off now. That's pretty good. So that's going to grow. That's the growth it's put up this year. And we've got Lord Lambourne growing up here. So all being well, Lord Lambourne and Winter King on one rootstock, so I'm very happy about that. Over here we have, now this is on MM106, this is one of my own grafts again. Now, this goes to show I made a mistake here. I cut it wrong several times. I didn't get my cut clean. So in the end I ended up with this really tiny little scion, but it's actually worked and it's taken. Didn't do much last year, but you can see that growth so far this year. So that's good. And here and here, I'm going to put some other varieties on, graft some other varieties on this next year. So that's going to be hopefully 3 varieties on 1 rootstock. So I'm very happy about that. So we'll just do another view. So of course when you're sort of designing your own and thinking about your own backyard orchard, you've got to be thinking, why are you doing it? Are you going to be doing it to preserve apple varieties, or to just grow apples that your family want, or a combination of the two? And of course you want to be growing things that are suitable for your climate where you live. So if you're living in a tropical climate, I don't believe apples in general are the sorts of things you grow there. You might look towards growing something that that would be better for your climate. You want to be thinking about the quality of the soil. So of course the soil here is rather poor due to the fact that there was a rather large cherry plum tree here for many years, and some pine trees here years ago as well, and they've literally sucked all of the nutrients out of the soil. So what I've had to do is put a lot of horse manure in, a lot of organic matter, a lot of compost, fish blood and bone, calcified seaweed to further enrich the soil, because especially some of these trees are home grafted, so I really don't want to lose them. So, which is why this one here I've used MM106, which is a very strong rootstock, or semi-vigorous should one say, and it should be able to put down some deep roots to get some nutrients from the soil. Now of course this is on a semi-dwarf rootstock, so I obviously had no control over that because I was given the tree, but it's putting out some good growth, and the soil, I'm going to keep a close eye on this. Every year I'm going to mulch and enrich more than once to ensure that it doesn't run out of nutrients in the soil. Ideally for poor soils you want to be using at least semi-vigorous rootstocks. Once again, this one here, now this one I don't know what rootstock this is on, because this came from Aldi's and it didn't state what rootstock it was on, so I've got to keep an eye on this. It has got a rather large root on it, so that's quite a good indication, but I'm going to be, once again you can see I put lots of things on the top in order to further enrich the soil. So that's a nice tree. Now this is the one I've got to keep the closest eye on, because M27 is otherwise known as a minaret. Now if you're going to grow a tree in a pot, these are the apple sort of rootstocks that are recommended for that M27, otherwise known as a minaret, and the roots will not get large at all. So I've got to make sure that every year this is thoroughly mulched and fed with organic matter, because I don't want to lose this. This one here, M26, sorry not M26, this one here is MM106, which again is a half standard, so I won't have to worry too much about that not getting enough nutrients, but even so I will be feeding them regularly with my own organic mixtures. Now what I've found to be very good is a mixture of horse manure, fish blood and bone, coffee ground, and well rotted, good quality compost. Okay, I hope that's been useful. The trick is to utilise the space that you've got. Don't lament too much if you don't have a big garden, because nowadays with smaller rootstocks and things like that, anything is possible. You could even have a small backyard orchard in some containers. Okay, so just show you a few things I've got in some containers. We've got a fig tree here, variety brown turkey. This cost me a few years ago about £3 from Wilkinson's, which is a budget supermarket here in the UK, so that's done well. Another home graft here, Court Pendu Plat and Winter King. This one here, this is from Aldi's a few years ago. Cox Orange Pippin. This will be going in the ground eventually. We have here a bramley in a pot. And sort of the plum tree here. Sorry, a green gage tree. So there you go. A small garden does not necessarily, or a small space, have to be as limiting as you may think, and with a little bit of planning, thinking and thought, you can produce some good quality fruit in a very small space. Okay, take care and we will speak soon.